Now, everyone already knows down south cornbread is a staple in the kitchen. But when you come deeper down in the Cajun land, you're going to learn about crawfish cornbread. It's something you got to try at least once in your life, and it's super easy to make. All the ingredients in this dish come together to make it sweet, savory, and even a little bit spicy if you want it to be. Go ahead, slice it up. You can bring this to Thanksgiving, Christmas, or any type of meal that you're having with your family. I promise you, it ain't gonna last long, and it's pressure. Let's get into it. So boom, we're gonna start off with our vegetables. First, we have a red bell pepper. A red bell pepper is just a green bell pepper that is more ripened and has a sweeter taste to it, so that's what we want in this dish. And there's many ways to cut a bell pepper, but my favorite way is to cut the top off and then go around the edges to cut the membrane and the seeds out. And a lot of people waste this part of the bell pepper, but that's good bell pepper too. We ain't letting nothing go to waste. Cut out the stem, and then we're going to chop that up as well. I'm telling y'all, don't throw this part out. It's good. Now you want to go ahead and slice it into smaller pieces so it's easier to work with, and this is where the knife skills come into play. Don't try to go fast with it. If you don't know how to cut, take your time. It's not worth cutting your finger off. But when cutting, you want to make sure that your knuckles are pressed up against the blade with your fingers bent inward so you guide yourself and never have to worry about your fingers getting underneath the blade. But most importantly, take your time if you're just learning in the kitchen. We want them to be perfectly diced, and we're going to make sure that we get every piece of that. All we're going to take out is the stem and the seed and the membrane. Bell peppers are expensive. We don't want to waste none of that. Now put that to the side. Now, when it comes to the worst thing in the kitchen to cut, it has to be an onion, easily. But there's a simple way to prevent yourself from burning your eyes out. Just place an ice cold bowl of water next to your onion, and then all those gases that are released from the onion will go straight into the water. Then you want to use the sharpest knife in the kitchen. You want the knife to be able to slice straight through the skin of the onion and not push down on it, which will really push those gases up. You do these simple things and you ain't going to be looking up like Ray Charles and wondering why you cut your finger off because you can't see the onion. Just like everything, there's a couple of different methods you can use to slice your onion. I like to slice a couple slits each way, and then I dice them up like that, and you don't have to worry about chopping it up any more than that because you'll have the perfectly diced onions from now. But again, there's always more than one way to skin a cat, so do what works for you, whatever's best for you. Just make sure that the onions are nice and small because we want them to be nice and tender and just melt in your mouth once it goes into this dish. Now we're going to come with my favorite, the green onion. A lot of people cut all the white off all the way up to the green, but that's still good too. All you really need to do is cut the root off, and then we're going to chop the white pieces. This is the piece that we'll add in with our onions and bell pepper and everything to saute. Again, try to use as much of everything as you can. Now, I like to chop up the green part of the green onion, and I don't saute this part. I add it in fresh later because I don't want it to wilt up, and you want it as fresh as possible when it goes into the dish because it'll continue to cook once it's in the oven. You could saute it with all the rest of your vegetables, but my personal preference is always add in green onion fresh. Now, for me, I love spicy, so I'm going to add a little bit of heat with a jalapeno pepper. If you don't like spicy, you don't have to add it, but if you do like spice but not too spicy, just cut out the seeds. But for me, I keep the seeds. I like spicy. I have a high tolerance, and I think it works perfectly with the sweet and saltiness of this dish. So again, this recipe, do what you want with it. What's your preference? This is just how I like mine. Now that we're done with the boring vegetables, we're going to get to the fun part. In the pan, we're going to melt down buku butter. And I know y'all going to say, oh my God, there's so much butter. No, it ain't. Argue with your mom. This dish is not made to be eaten by one person. It's made to be eaten by a whole family. So if you eat this whole thing by yourself, that's another problem in its own. And if you still think it's too unhealthy, just go and make that butter healthy by adding all those vegetables to saute in there. But for real, this is where all your flavors going to start to come in. We want to saute these vegetables down for at least 15 minutes on a medium to low heat until they get nice and tender and translucent and release all those flavors. And this is where we're going to come with our garlic. I like to use the garlic right out the pack because I use garlic so much I don't feel like chopping it up and taking all the skin off. I just chop it up just like this. Add it in there, let it get nice and fragrant, and then we're going to come with our crawfish tails. Now, you want to have the freshest Louisiana crawfish as possible. I boiled these, but if you don't have access to that, you always could just use frozen Louisiana crawfish tails, but they must say Cajun certified. That's the only way it's really from Louisiana and you're getting the right stuff. Now go ahead and add that to your pan, and you want to make sure that you get all the fats and juices because crawfish, again, are not cheap. No matter if it's in season or not, they're not cheap. So get all that flavor in there. And then we're going to hit it with our Cajun seasoning. And remember, if you ain't sneezing, it ain't seasoned. And since these crawfish are already cooked, you really could just turn the heat off and just mix everything together to make those flavors come together. This could really be the base for a lot of crawfish dishes. You could add some cream and cheese and make a pasta. You could add some cream to it and make a crawfish sauce. You could add some breadcrumbs and a few other things and make a base to your crawfish bits. I'm telling y'all, this could be used for a lot of different things. So we're going to take this off the heat and get started with everything else we got to do. Now, I do have a recipe for a Southern style cornbread from scratch on my website, but with this dish, we're going to go the simple way. I like to use Jiffy, but use whatever brand that you like. But at this point, everything went wrong and I knew I should have just made it from scratch. But see, we're going to see it through. Y'all don't let nobody deter y'all from using your box mix when it's convenient to you, because sometimes people just don't have time to be making stuff all the way from scratch. And this is simple, and all you got to do is add some egg and milk, and then it's good to go. Once you add all your stuff, we're going to mix it. It should still be slightly lumpy, so don't worry about all that. Once everything comes together, we're going to start adding everything that goes into the dish. For starters, we're going to come with the cream style corn. This, along with the cornbread, is what gives this whole dish the sweetness element. So you want to make sure you add your cream style corn, or if you want it less moist, you can just add the regular sweet corn kernels that's not cream. This is where the sweetness meets the savory. We're going to add that crawfish mixture, and if you have your jalapeno in there, it'll really give that little spice to it as well. And now we want to make the whole dish healthy by adding our green onion. Like I said earlier, I like to add it in fresh and not sauteed because it's just better that way to me personally. Now, you can add some shredded cheddar cheese to take it to another level, but for now, I think it has enough flavor. We're not going to put it this time. Mix it up till everything is well combined. And now we have to put it into a dish. And you can use any oven-safe dish, but I think cornbread goes best in cast irons. And in Louisiana, we never cook nothing small, so we got to go with the big one. Spray it down with some cooking spray, and then add as much of that batter as the Lord allows. We need to get all that. We're going to go ahead and spread it nice and smooth. And then we're going to throw it in the preheated oven at 400 degrees. Now, this can go in the oven anywhere from 35 to 45 minutes. Since I have a bigger pan, I went on the longer end, and I like it to be more golden brown on the top, and I like when the edges get nice and crispy. To check this, we're going to go ahead and get a toothpick. When the toothpick goes into the middle and comes out clean, you know it's done. If the toothpick goes in and then something comes off of the toothpick, just add it in a little bit longer and check on it. It's that simple. Now we're going to set it to the side to cool, and I'm telling y'all, this is the perfect side dish to bring to your family. You're going to be the talk of the whole dinner, I promise you. And just like my name, you're all done.